Before we start this episode, as a very passionate Warramungu Yari woman, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land we are recording this podcast from, and honour their ongoing connection to country, community and culture. I wouldn't be me without the sacrifices of my ancestors, and for that I pay my deepest respect and extend that respect with love to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and all elders past and present. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
All right. What's up, Megsy?
What
oh my
is
God.
up?
Nah. No.
Who are you? What's
No.
up, Megsy?
Oh, God. Anyway, Megsy, how are we?
Fuck. I'm so good because I'll tell you why. I have just recently booked my flights home. I'm going home for Christmas. It's getting to that time of the year. We're coming to the end.
Some listeners might not know where home is.
Oh, home is Darwin, back up to Larrakia country. So going home for Christmas. I have a few final big events in the calendar work-wise just before Christmas. So the last kind of big work thing that I have is the Monday, the 17th, and I'm flying home on the 19th.
Oh, nice. Of December.
So not too far away now, light at the end of the tunnel. I counted in my calendar like Christmas is literally like 5 weeks away or 4 weeks away or something like that. It's absolutely wild. So that's really exciting. I'm just looking forward to, I don't know, for any of you who listen that have been to Darwin during the Christmas period, the wet season, it's one of my favourite times of the year. Like going home for Christmas just is this feeling, that's what helps me slow down. Like I can't wait because I cannot wait to just get off the plane and feel that like muggy feeling, but like watch the storms roll in and just be at my mum's. Like mum loves a cheeky little vino, so I can't wait to have a wine at home with my mum and see my family and wrap Christmas presents. And then I'm going to come back and Portia and I, who I live with, one of my best mates, we're planning currently our little adventure over New Year's. We're going to drive from Sydney to do a little bit of Byron. We've got friends that are going to be in Byron as well. And so just turn it into a little bit of a road trip. And I can't wait. I just cannot wait to go on a bit of an adventure, looking like a holiday, just to have a break, to fully switch off the gym kind of. We operate on skeleton hours. And so I'm just like, bring it on. Bring on the sunshine, bring on the good times, bring on a break.
And how long will said break go for? So you're leaving on the 19th?
Leaving on the 19th and we're going to come back the second week of January.
Oh, epic.
Yes, Portia gets 2 weeks off.
But you'll come back from Darwin between?
Come back from Darwin, fly to Melbourne, and then we'll pack the car, drive to Sydney, which I've never done the Melbourne to Sydney drive before either. I know it's like not the most amazing journey, but like cool. I'm just looking forward to a bit of a road trip.
Are you taking your car?
We haven't decided yet because Portia just bought a new car as well.
Oh,
so
nice.
And either or are like great road trip, bigger cars. Yeah. So exciting.
Oh my God, cool. Jealous.
Yeah. How are you going? I love the updates that you and Guy send in the group chat, just getting out for weekend surfs and little brunch dates. How's life?
We actually had such a nice weekend. The surf was pumping, which was so good. We got out for 2 sunrise surfs. We went 6 a.m. on Saturday morning and 6 a.m. on Sunday morning because we are pillars of health. No, but we have this little break, like a wave really close to our house, like in like where we live, like just 2 kilometers down the road. And yeah, it just reminds us of COVID lockdowns because, you know, when you had like the 5 kilometer radius, we were so lucky because the surf break was like within our 5 kilometer radius.
So good.
Through winter, because the waves are typically better in winter. Which is annoying because it's cold, but through winter lockdowns, like we were in the surf like every day. It was like such a blessing. We couldn't believe how lucky we'd gotten. So yeah, it's really nostalgic for the good parts of COVID. Obviously there were some horrific parts as well, but yeah, so it was so nice to get out there together and and also there's bigger context because at the moment, Guy at the time of recording this has just started this new job at work. So for anyone who's listened to our Guy episode, you'll know that he's a firefighter. So he works shift work, 4 days on, 4 days off. But 2 day shifts, 2 night shifts, 4 days off. That's kind of his ongoing roster. I can look at his calendar for like 2028 and I can tell you if he's working or not on any given day. But he's just got this new job in the peer support team. I'm going to get this so wrong, which means that he's not on station. He has a different role where he goes out and visits different stations and delivers kind of mental health talks and helps support any fireys who are exposed to sort of traumatic incidences and events. So what that means for me is that he's home a little bit more, like rather than, being out in South Melbourne, which is quite far from where we live, which means he has to get up really early in the mornings and leave. And then he stays up in the city. So we often don't cross paths. He's home more. And this is like the first week of that. So he wasn't working over the weekend, but we got the whole weekend together, which is like such a luxury for us.
So nice.
And we had heaps of social time. We had all of my girlfriends. Oh my gosh, actually. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we had all of my girlfriends and their partners, or not all, but 3 of my girlfriends and their partners come down for, to have dinner with us in Balnarring on Saturday night. And we went to the driving range beforehand because we wanted to do something a bit fun. So there was 6 of us or 7 of us actually at the driving range. And Guy, in very Guy fashion, decided that he wanted to film a funny TikTok or Instagram video, very inspired unemployed style. He'd got the inspo from this video. Anyway, so we were all in this outdoor driving range, all standing in a line, and it was like a waterfall thing. So one person hits the next person, the next person, the next person.
I saw that video.
You saw the video.
Very creative.
I'll resurface it so that I can post it on our stories. Anyway, the story takes a little bit of a turn.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because oh god. So we did it in one take and it was actually really good. We couldn't believe it. Anyway, Guy was like, let's just do one more, whatever, just for good luck. So we did it. My golf ball hit the metal. There were these small kind of half a meter high barriers between each of the bits. I hit my ball into the metal barrier and it ricocheted and hit.
Don't say it hit Steph.
It hit Minka in the face.
Oh my God.
The golf ball hit Minka in the face.
Is she okay?
We could not believe how lucky she was.
Fuck me.
Yeah, so it hit her here. So she's got a gash, a little gash, just in that pocket, for anyone who can't see. Yeah, for anyone who's on YouTube, hi. And also thank you for watching our YouTube. A little gash here. And so the ball hit there. We assumed that she was going to have a thumper, a really hectic black eye, but surprisingly she didn't. It was a little bit red and her cheek was a little bit swollen.
Did she cry?
No, she didn't. But because so we were filming this thing, we all hit. And I just see Minka. So I went and then Minka went. And because it was all happening so fast, I didn't know that my ball had hit. In hindsight, we heard the noise. But I just see Minka go down and just cup her face and crouch down on the ground.
God,
and I'm oh my God, what is happening? But Minka's feeling her face to figure out what's actually happened. She's are my teeth still there? Where are my eyes? Am I bleeding? Anyway, so I'm we obviously run to help her and we're trying to figure it out. And she's cupping her eye like this. But again, so lucky because if that had hit her mouth, probably would have knocked her teeth out. If that had hit a couple of centimeters higher into her eye.
You just don't even want to think about it.
It's just unbelievable. Anyway, so obviously I felt awful. Oh my goodness. And
we love you, Minka.
Oh, we love you, Minka, so much.
Sorry.
But she was such a champ, honestly. She didn't cry. She was just firstly, in shock, what is happening? Anyway, we got her up, realized that there was just a little bit of blood on her face. We kind of wiped that. We got it. One of the boys was drinking a beer, so we got the cold kind of beer can, put that up against her face. Anyway, then we had a dinner reservation and the girls, we went back to our house quickly, grabbed her some ice, popped that on her face to, get some of the swelling down. And then, we just went out for dinner, business as usual, and she was completely fine.
Thank goodness. That could have been, anyway, let's not even think about what it could have been because.
Golf ball to the face.
And you weren't watching that video, you weren't just putting, you were
we
whacking
were,
those
we were
things.
at the driving range, giving it a good go. Anyway, So sorry, Minka. I love you so much, but I'm so glad that you're okay.
So glad that you're okay.
Anyway.
What a great fun activity though. The driving ranges
Oh my
is
God.
sick.
It really, I was like, wow, I want to do this all the time now.
Yeah.
I'm like hooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's make that. We need to organize a Christmas something before.
We do.
But anyway, we can organize that
Yeah.
at a later date.
Yeah.
Today, oh my gosh, we have an amazing guest coming on, Zoe.
Oh my God, yeah. Wow, we should probably introduce that.
We should probably introduce that actually, just instead of yapping. If we have an incredible guest to welcome to the podcast and somebody who has grown to become an incredibly close friend, a sister, Courtney Ugle. I'm so excited to share her with our listeners because she's just such a bright, beaming ray of light and just good energy.
Yeah. Oh, it was an incredible chat. Oh.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read a little bio just to give a little bit more insight into who Courtney is. So Courtney Ugle is a powerhouse of resilience, a proud Noongar woman from Bunbury, WA, who has transformed personal tragedy into a mission of hope, healing and big dreams. She's the founder and CEO of Waangkiny, a social enterprise dedicated to empowering communities and fostering change through storytelling, which she does so compellingly and beautifully. Courtney's life has been shaped by profound losses, having grown up in an environment marked by domestic violence and losing both parents at a young age. Yet, these challenges have only fueled her vision, driving her to be a voice for those whose stories need to be told and heard. Courtney's journey is one of breaking cycles, creating ripples of change, and those ripples are for sure more like pools and pools of change, and inspiring others to find their strength. She believes in the power of shared stories to not only heal, but to unite and uplift. What a bio.
Yeah. Well, she's a force of nature. It is important just to give a trigger warning here. We do discuss some pretty heavy topics in this podcast, things like suicide, domestic violence, a lot of grief. So if that's something that you sense is maybe not appropriate for where you're at the moment, please feel free to skip this episode, but do come back to it because it is a really, really important conversation.
Yeah. Shall we get into it?
Yeah. All right. Enjoy. Okay. Welcome, Courtney. So we have just been honestly gas bagging for like 20 minutes before we press the record button, and we could just and probably will keep doing that for the next little bit. But before we do kick off, we will start with our mindful breath as we do in every episode. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, take a moment just to pause. Take an easy breath in through your nose and a slow breath out. Courtney, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
My sister. We've been trying to align this day for so long because you are a busy gal, and I feel like I'm just constantly in your inbox like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Like, hi, oh my God, you're doing this again. I'm so proud of you. But it's just been so amazing to be in your corner as a cheerleader, just watching you just go from strength to strength to strength to strength over the years. And yeah, it just makes me so proud. So I'm so glad that we've finally been able to find a time to get you in here to sit down and to just share you with more and more people, because I just adore you. And I feel like from the minute that you and I met, like it was like instantaneous, like this connection was just formed and it was strong from day dot. And I'm just so grateful that you've been able to take the time out to share parts of your story, and also just like with our audience, your business journey is so inspiring. So I can't wait to get into all of these topics. So off the back of that, like we do with all of our episodes, we usually reflect and ask each other, but because you're here today, we want to ask you, sis, what is keeping you rushing at the moment?
Well, first of all, I'm so honoured to be here, and I think this is what we've chucked around 3 different dates and then didn't work. So I'm glad that we were able to kind of make this work come together and have a bit of a yarn today. So I am very grateful being here. I think for me, knowing that I've got a big fat summer holiday at home coming up is keeping me going because the block a bit of a period, sorry, before that time is super busy. Like I'm going to be on a plane more than I am in my own home. So knowing that I've got a bit of time with my family on country back home is what is keeping me going. But I know that this next couple of weeks to few months is extremely busy for me. But it's everything I've asked for. Like this life that I'm living now is everything that I have dreamt about, I've asked for, but also worked extremely hard to make happen. So yeah, I'm definitely rushing. I don't know about slowly, but definitely, yeah, rushing slowly for sure. Knowing that I get a good break at the end in the sun.
Well, you speak about home, and your home is so beautiful and so part of your identity, of course, your upbringing, your childhood. Let's take it back there. Let's get to know Courtney Ugle, the Noongar yoga from WA, from Perth. Tell us a little bit about growing up.
Yeah, so my dad is a Balladong man from a small country town in Beverley, which is up in the wheat belt. And my mum is a Wadandi woman from the southwest of WA. We grew up in a town called Bunbury. So I grew up by the water. I'm a saltwater girl, and makes a lot of sense as to why I feel like I am safe and secure every time I am at the beach. It is a sense of belonging for me. And yeah, growing up, it's so funny. I talk and share my story all the time, but when I actually sit down, I'm often reminded of all the good times as well because when I talk about my story, there are a lot of, I talk a lot about the trauma and the terrible experiences that I had, but I don't ever want to dismiss the good times that I had. And I think, you know, I do have those memories. Unfortunately, the negative ones probably just seem a lot bigger. However, I am reminded constantly that I did come from love, and that's something that I'll always come back to when I think about my mum and dad. And they were so young when they met and fell in love and had 4 beautiful kids. The third one is the prettiest. But
And she's looking nice and tanned and
yes,
gorgeous.
that is the Northern Territory sun, I must admit. But yeah, growing up, I don't have a lot of memories of mum and dad actually being together because they had actually separated when I was about 3 or 4 years old. But I was extremely lucky that we were still able to see both sides of the family. We lived with mum, but was able to go to dad's home and see him and be with, that side of the family. But yeah, growing up, I think didn't really understand or know, that what was happening around me was considered normal. We were born into this environment where family and domestic violence and drugs and alcohol, that was normal, very much normalized in my community. So for me growing up, I knew I didn't like it, but it didn't seem like anything was wrong with it because you were surrounded by it, right? But yeah, when I was 11 years old, my dad took his own life. So early in my childhood, we experienced grief, loss, trauma. I had no idea what that meant. All I knew is that I didn't have a dad anymore. And when I reflect and think about my dad's life and my dad's journey, can only, hope and wish that he'd had opportunities to change his life and to see a world outside of his norm. And I think when I look back and reflect as an adult, was he offered those opportunities? I'm not too sure. But I've lived longer without my dad than I have with him. And when I talk about these things, it's not to bring shame to my family. I'm not embarrassed of where I come from and who I am, but it's just to talk about the real life shit that we experience and face in our homes, in our communities, and things that are often, pushed to the dark side. And we don't talk about that. We don't bring it up. But in my healing journey, I've had to go back and honor dad's part in my upbringing. A lot of my memories that I have with dad, he had an alcohol beverage, in his hand almost, all the time. So alcoholism was something that he faced and we experienced as children. And when we talk about perpetrators of family and domestic violence, it was in the household. And again, for me to move forward with my journey, I had to go back and acknowledge that part and his part in the makeup of me as a child. But unfortunately, every single man that came after my dad abused my mum physically, mentally, emotionally. Again, I didn't know what these big words were, right? I just knew that mum was being hurt by these men. And when I say every single man, and I'll never forget, I don't often talk about this a lot, but it kind of just brings a little bit of perspective because we can say we grew up in family and domestic violence, like we can say that, and people will paint their picture or their idea of what that was, right? I remember it was mum's birthday and she was with this guy and she had asked if they could go down to the pub to celebrate, and he didn't like that and he'd bent over the table and burnt her in the face with a cigarette. And I remember she had this mark on her for so long. Anyway, I would have been about 13 or 14 at this stage. I don't know where my siblings were. It was just me in the house. And it would have been about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and mum comes to wake me up and she's whispering and she's like, we need to go, baby. Like, we need to go. And I was like, what? You know, frightened and scared, just doing whatever my mum tells me to do. And she's like, we can't go out the front door. We need to go out the balcony because the door's too loud. And so I'm just doing whatever mum tells me, just following whatever she's doing. And she opens the door and we're sneaking out to the balcony and we're in a 2-story apartment and she jumps off the balcony and she's like, come on, baby, come on, like we need to go. And so I jump and we hit the floor and we're running the streets of Perth and we went to this lady's house. And I was like, oh, she looks so familiar. This was the mother of my friend that I used to play with at the park. She was waiting there with the car on and we jumped in and she drove us to safety. And when I think about this now, I feel like mum knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. It was as if this was planned. This lady was waiting for us. She had no phone, so she wasn't allowed a phone. But she would have hated that she had one of her children, you know, with her. And I don't think this was the first time mum had ever been in that situation. And so for my mum, thinking about the life that she endured, like I wish that I could just give her the biggest hug and just say, you know, like I love you and I'm so proud of you for continuing to fight because she was a fighter and she's been, you know, my mum's journey has been one of great sadness, and as an adult now I can have a bit of a greater understanding and a sense of why things were the way that they were. As young kids, mum unfortunately fell down the path of drug and alcohol abuse, and that was extremely hard for us as kids to try and navigate because we didn't really understand. We just knew that it wasn't right. And, you know, when you are in a house, you don't have any food or you don't have any power and you don't even know where your mum is, of course you have some big emotions and big feelings about that. But back then at that age, I didn't understand the world. I didn't understand her world. I didn't understand her pain and her trauma. Only now as an adult that I have a greater understanding, and my strength comes from my mother. And, you know, in her own ways, she taught me so much about life and how to be a kind person. And a lot of my traits do come from her. And I'm so proud to be my mother's daughter. But unfortunately, this pain that she endured a lot of her life was at the hands of men. And in 2016, March the 9th, it was a Wednesday. And I'll remember this day so clearly and for the rest of my life because it was the worst day of my life. My mum was murdered in her home by her partner, a different man to the one that I spoke about. She was 42 and was murdered in her home. And my life has not been the same since that day.
Your mum would be, every time you talk, she'd be so proud.
I feel it. I do. I feel it. I feel her. And I think that my connection with her is so strong. And that's how I believe I've got this strength and resilience and determination to do this work that I do because you know, someone has said to me, would you still be in this line of work if that didn't happen to you in your family? And absolutely, because regardless of how I lost mum, we still experienced a lot of family domestic violence growing up. Mum could have just been here to share her side of the story, you know, but unfortunately she's not. So my work is because I have a deep personal commitment to keep my mum's name alive, to keep my mum's dignity alive, because often when you come from a community and the community and the wider community know of mum's drug addiction and the abuse and how we were, I suppose, treated as kids, people knew that, right? But I don't know if people truly knew to the core of what my mum experienced. But I think that stems from just us as a community. I really don't think we know how much trauma affects us.
Yeah.
Because we know that trauma, it isn't the incident that happens, it's what happens inside of you. And trauma lives inside of your body. And I don't think we know enough about that. We also don't know enough of how to heal that and fix that. But the only good thing about trauma is that it can be healed at any time. But I didn't know this back then. You know, this has only been a big learning for me since I moved away from my community and saw a world outside of my normal.
Yeah.
But I sit here today and share these stories, and I'm proud to be my mother's daughter. And I wish I had more time with my dad. But you know, I lost mum when I was 19 years old, and my relationship with her obviously was very different to mine with dad's. But a lot of what I do is in honor of my mum, and I'm really proud of this work. But I do believe I have her and my dad standing beside me, giving me that strength and allowing me to do this work.
Can I ask, I don't know if this is the right question to ask, but I can't help but be curious. Does the child version of you who was exposed to, I guess, that level of trauma hold any resentment towards your mum for?
That's a really great question. The child, yeah, absolutely. We were hungry kids. We were alone, like we were neglected kids. We were hurt kids. And of course, when you are in that position, you want to blame someone. And mum was the adult. She was our parent. And yeah, a lot of my big emotions that I had, they were towards my mum. And we often got into screaming matches, and we fought a lot, and my siblings will be able to back that up. But it was because I expected more from mum, and I knew that deep down there was a different version of mum. Because like I said, I often talk about these traumas and the negative things that we face, but my mum, to her core, was the most kind person. She was a beautiful person, and she would give you the shirt off her back if it meant that she was helping you. That's the person she was. But I often moved around, you know, during high school, staying at friends' houses for weeks on end because I just didn't like being at home. You go home to no food, you know, you're like, what is this shit? Like, or even you come home, you know, it was mum's payday, but she's got food from the food bank. And if you've ever had to have food from the food bank, you know that it's not the best quality food. It's often frozen meat pies and sausage rolls, and you're so disheartened when you come home from school and you're fucking starving and there's nothing for you to eat at home, you know. And of course, who else is there to blame? There was no one else. And we definitely had some big conversations about that. And I try not to let that to be my biggest memories of mum, because upon reflection now, mum really did do her best with what she had, and that maybe wasn't enough for a lot of the time, but she did her best, and I've got to really thank her for that, because obviously now having the greater understanding of how fucking hard my mum had it.
And that's what I was just about to say. It's like, you know, you were talking about trauma, and trauma doesn't go away. I mean, we can get better at living with it when we work on it and address it, but it's there when you've gone through such big life experiences. And then I think, you know, it's having that, especially as blackfellas in this country too, you know, like her conditioning, it's like, even though in that moment in the child mind that you're in, you don't have that awareness until you get the opportunity to grow up, reflect and gain self-awareness. But the perspective shift that must happen for you as you start to realize, well, my mum drank alcohol and took drugs and chose to be in relationships with abusive partners because that was her story. And when you're conditioned in a certain way, it's like, unfortunately she didn't have the tools and like just wasn't in the environment, for example, where you are, where you've been able to break down your conditioning and create a whole new cycle for yourself. And you just have such a different lens when you can go, even though, you know, there would have been so many times you would have been so angry at your mum back in those younger days. Now you can look back and I imagine go, well, fucking no wonder that was the way that it was for her.
Yeah. Like, you're absolutely right. And I talk about this a lot with my siblings because obviously, you know, I didn't go through this alone. We all have our own stories and you know, as soon as I could, I moved out of the home. You know, my little sister was still there and she's got her own stories with mum. And, you know, I'll leave that for her to maybe tell one day. But it was funny. I remember this day and mum had woken up and she was yelling at me to get up and go to school. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why aren't you telling Sky and Maddie to go to school? Like, they need to go to school. But she was only yelling at me to go to school. And I was like, does she hate me? Like, what is it about like, why me? But I truly believe to my core, and especially hearing from a lot of my aunties and ones that mum often spoke to, she would often tell them, like, my Courtney, that's the one that's, sorry. Wow. She'd say, like, my Courtney, she's the one that's going to go travel. Like, she's going to go and do stuff. And only now has some family contacted me to tell me these things. Obviously, they're seeing all these amazing opportunities come my way. And, yeah, I literally got a message the other day and it was from my auntie Priscilla, and she said, yeah, mum used to say that I was the one that was going to take on the world. So looking back now, I think mum truly knew that and saw that in me. So maybe that's why she was like, Courtney, go to school, get up and go. Not that she thought that my siblings weren't going to, you know, do something great with their life. But I think I've always had a big loud mouth, always been a bit dramatic and not camera shy. And so I really think that she saw that in me. And that's probably why she was that just a little bit harder, I suppose, on me. That's how I looked at it anyway. But I also have a text message saying that I'm the favorite kid. So I've got that one banked. But no, you know, I think mum truly saw my potential, and I didn't, because again, she was conditioned to be one way, to live a way, and that's how I felt too. Like, this is normal. This is what, you know, this is what my life is going to be. But obviously that all shifted when we lost mum, and I just thought to myself, like, there's something better for me. There's something bigger for me. I don't know what it is, but I need to get out. I need to make a change, because he'd also pleaded not guilty. So it went to a trial process, and because I'd rocked up at the scene, I had to give evidence in court, and that was like, that shit is off a movie. Like, I didn't realize that was real life, that shit actually happened. And, you know, here I am as a 19, 20-year-old in court giving evidence in my mum's murder trial. But he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. And I often say this to people, like, some people don't and won't understand this, and that's okay. But I don't hate this man. Like, what is hating him going to do? It's not going to bring my mum back. It's not going to change anything. But I refuse to let it define me in a negative way. And so I made that decision and promised myself that I was going to move not on with my life, but move forward with my life. And if I hate him, if I speak ill of him, he's just taking energy. He's taking my soul, my spirit, and I just refuse to let that happen. He is where he needs to be, and I have a life that I'm living. And I really do feel like that has allowed me to step into this whole new world. And really do some great work.
This might kind of trickle into the next part of the story, but I think one of the challenging things about being a child that you don't know at the time is that you think in black and white, right? You don't have the ability as a child to zoom out and look at the systemic nature of things and the actual context of things. Like, when you're a kid, you're just in it and it's just happening, and you tend to think it's your fault, you know, that especially when you're sort of a younger child. But obviously there is such a massive contrast between that and where you are now. And my question is around what helped you to get here with this level of self-awareness, systemic awareness, insight, but probably most, I guess, admirably compassion.
Yeah, really good question, because I think honestly, like, football saved my life. And people, I feel like people can flippantly say that sometimes, but for me, it did. I think the most human that I felt after losing mum was when I was able to get back to footy training. And if that was all I could do that day, like, that was enough for me. And it was this place where I went, and I just was embraced with open arms, and I was able to train and, keep physically fit, but it was also an escape from reality. As soon as you walk onto the field, like, all that matters is getting through training. And it was a place where, not that I had forgotten what had happened, but it was just a nice little break. And as days and weeks went on, I found myself being able to get to training a lot more. And so this was a space that I felt like I could feel normal, and I was doing something positive, and I was playing with my teammates and my sister girls, and, talking to people and navigating my new norm. It just got to a point after the trial that I was like, something needs to change. And I'd actually got in contact with some people from across the nation, literally like cry for help. Like, do you need a small little winger halfback? She's a little bit fast, but I just wanted out.
Which I just want to say, that is such a you thing to do. Like, a lot of people can hold themselves back from putting themselves out there like that. And I really admire that about what you were able to, and what you still do. That's how you just continue to go from strength to strength, because you're not afraid to go, I'm here. Like, come on, world, like, take me. And I fucking love that about you.
I love that. That's so nice, because sometimes I feel like, what the hell am I doing? Being dramatic again. No, but that's really lovely to hear, sis. Thank you. But honestly, it was as simple as that. It was just ringing around to people that I was familiar with and was like, do you know a team that is looking for a player? And I was connected with a friend who was affiliated with Essendon, and they were coming into the VFLW in their inaugural season in 2018, and contacted them, and they had contacted me back and said, like, yeah, we're really keen. But that was purely off of character reference. So they hadn't seen me play footy. They didn't see the size of me. They just spoken to a few people that spoke highly of me, I suppose. So they said, yeah, we've got a spot on the list. We'd love to offer it to you. So I'm drooping. Drooping in my language means like happy. Like, I'm really happy. I'm telling everyone I'm going. Like, I'm going to play for Bombers in Melbourne. And weeks had gone by and I hadn't heard anything. And I'm thinking, shame job. Like, I'm saying I'm going and I actually don't know if I am. And then I get a call and they said, we booked your flights. And looked at the date and it was for 6 days away. So I had 6 days to pack up my entire life into 2 suitcases and move across the country by myself.
And how old are you at this point?
I was 21.
Oh my goodness.
21. And when I tell you I had no money, like, I had no money. Like, let me be really honest about that. But a really good friend of mine, Emily, she'd actually put me up at her place. And I still have a photo of it, because it was this single bed and it had Superman hero like covers, and it was just good enough for me. It was a bed with a roof and its opportunity, and I had no excuses after that, right? Because it was like, okay, they paid for my flights, they've done all this, but where am I going to live? And my friend Emily had solved that problem for me. And it wasn't until
Emily was in Melbourne.
Emily was in Melbourne,
Gotcha.
yeah. So I stayed with her and her family. And she'd said to me at my 18th birthday, so she flew to WA for my 18th birthday, obviously years before, and she was talking to mum, and she had made a promise to mum that she'd look after me. And so this was her way in keeping mum's,
Just like
keeping the promise, yeah.
I've got literally, I'm so like goosebumpy. Every time I'm around you, I feel like that's like maybe your mum around too. Like, I just am constantly in shivers when you talk and you tell these beautiful, just reflect on these beautiful things.
When she'd had that conversation with my mum at my 18th birthday party, which I obviously wasn't aware of, and finding accommodation or a home was the last thing that I had to do. And it was probably going to be the reason why I didn't come, because it was like, well, where am I going to live, right? And I remember just asking Emily, and within a couple of hours she came back. She said, yep, just spoke to mum, you're fine, like, you come live here. So there was no excuse for me not to get on this plane, right? Everything was sorted. And I got on, and there's this video of me that I often share every year when it comes up, but it's all my siblings. Why am I getting so emotional about this? All my siblings at the airport, and my nieces and nephew, and they're watching me walk onto the plane and I'm sobbing and I'm like crying. But I look back and I think, gosh, that girl, you have no idea what your life is going to transform into. And I look back at that and I was scared. I was so scared and nervous, leaving country, leaving my family, leaving everything that I know to go. And everyone thought it was to just play football, but it was to go and change my life. And this opportunity really did that for me. It saved my life and it allowed me to see a world outside of my world. And that's landed me into the position that I am in today. And I don't think I would be here if I didn't get on that plane. And you know me, I love sharing memories. I love photos. I love it. I love all that stuff. So to look back at that and watching myself get on that plane, sobbing, looking back at my siblings, being like, far out, don't know what I'm about to go into, but I know I have to do this. And that was in 2018. And I often say like, God, I'm so lucky or I'm so blessed, which I think I am, but like I've worked so hard for this. Like I really have. But if it weren't for Emily giving me that single mattress with the Superman heroes on the covers, I don't know if I would be here.
I sort of feel like the Superman covers are like very appropriate.
Yeah.
Superwoman.
I have a
Superwoman
photo
or-
and I feel like I'm going to share it because again, like to me, if looking back now, I'm like, that is so funny to me, right? Like but it was a bed and a roof over my head and they welcomed me and embraced me and learning that the conversation that Emily had with mum, you know, years before and her promising mum that she would look after me, this was her way in doing that. And I'm so grateful for Emily and her family.
So I hear all of that and it sounds so precious, and you can like feel it when you talk about your relationship to footy and how kind of life-saving that was. But yet I still can't help but be interested in like the broader picture around just your perspective on things and like the kind of the psychological piece. And maybe it's a product of maturity. Maybe
You tell me, because I don't know. Because often people ask me this, right? And now when I speak and I talk about how I've dealt with things, I'm not saying that my whole family have done that, right? This is just purely me.
Yeah.
Like it, honestly, for me, I felt like, yes, we had to grow up before our time. And, you know, when you're a young kid trying to, you know, make ends meet, doing whatever you need to get some money or to get food in the house, you know, like in mum's absence, you just grow up so quickly and you learn so much, you know. Was it right or wrong? You know, there's things that I did that I'm not proud of, like stealing food so that we could eat, or stealing raffle tickets from school and I sold them to our neighbors and said, you'd win this great prize. But it was a lie. But with that money meant that I could go and get dinner and food and whatever for me and my sister. So we just had to hustle and we just had to figure it out. And I do believe that has made me, you know, who I am today. But I don't really know what it was, but all I know is that after things settled down after the trial, I remember just like looking around and like everything was so still. And I just thought like, I don't know, I just felt it in my core that I was meant for something bigger than this. And I just put myself out there, like you said, Megsy. And honestly, I just took opportunities and I met new people and I was able to learn and discover who I was and who I wanted to become as an adult, learning new perspectives, learning about this world from a systemic point of view, because I didn't even know what that meant, you know, even as a young adult who left high school, because that was normal for me. This environment was normal for me. But what I've learned is that there's nothing fucking normal about family and domestic violence. There's nothing normal about violence, right? And I can see that now because I am out of that. I'm out of that. And I'm very protective of my spirit, my energy, my relationships, my morals. Because being a cycle breaker is hard. It's not impossible, but it's very hard because you're essentially standing up against what your wider family have known and done for generations and generations. And it's confronting, right? So when you are openly, like me, a speaker and an advocate talking about these things, it is unsettling for others. And I do believe that it's not ill-intended, but that comes from a place of not knowing any different.
Yeah, and I just want to go back to, you working so hard. I actually screenshot your story that you put on Instagram today, which I just thought was so cute. It was like a little selfie of yourself with some sunnies on, and it was like, I've created this life for myself, and it's like, it's not been easy, but this life is so good because I made it that way. And that's what you wrote in your story. And I screenshotted it because I was like, that is just so you again. And I just think it's so admirable that you've been able to go through more trauma than I've know in most people. You've had it all, and you've just come out as this gleaming, beaming ray of just energy, and you give, like, you're literally not only a cycle breaker for yourself, but by you doing that, you're empowering like thousands of people with the work that you do and the voice that you have, and advocating for family and domestic violence. And it is just, I'm like fully, I know even though I was like texting you yesterday and I was like showing you my goosebumps in a photo, because I'm like, you just give me goosebumps, because I'm just so admire everything that you've been able to create for yourself off the back of the most adverse situation you could face as a kid.
This, let me know if you don't want to go here. What is the hardest part of being a cycle breaker?
I think the backlash.
Good question.
Yeah, I think the backlash that I have received from some of my family, because anyone who knows me knows that I am not a person who likes any kind of conflict, drama, anything like that. And I do this with the most kindness and compassion and empathy that I have for my parents. I'm fighting these battles that they unfortunately didn't win. But I think, like I mentioned earlier, when you are a cycle breaker and like me, speaking openly about these things, and those people, my parents, who have played a big role in the makeup of who I am, it's hard for other people to hear that, because I feel like I'm talking from a point where I'm talking ill about it, or I'm bringing shame, and it's like, how dare they? That's not what I'm about. That's not how I want to be portrayed. That's not how I tell my story. And so I can understand people maybe feeling a little bit hurt and upset by me speaking out, but I feel like I was given the strength to play this part and to do this, because I do not want my kids and our kids, nieces and nephews from all over, to go through what we went through. And I'm old enough now and big enough now to have these conversations. And if I can handle a little bit of backlash from some family, I will do that if it means that my kids don't experience what we experience growing up. And it's not to blame anybody. I'm not doing that. And, both my parents equally played a part in some of my negative experiences as a child. But it doesn't come from a place of ill intent. It comes from a place of just normalizing talking about this stuff, because it is happening so often that people that you associate yourself with probably have some kind of experience with that they just don't talk about. But I'm here to change that narrative. Let's talk about it so we can heal together. I'm not ashamed of where I come from and the upbringing that I have, but I just refuse to let that filter down. Trauma ran in my family until it ran into me.
Can I just, on being, cycle breaker, and I'm so glad you asked that question before we moved on to, getting to know more of your business stuff, because something that, again, I really admire about you, and I just adore you so much and I love you. But as part of that, you've decided for, I can't remember how many years, like 4 years now, you have entered into sobriety.
7.
Epic.
Yeah. And that is just, that is exactly what an example of, you breaking down that pattern, that conditioning, that cycle. Can you explain a little bit about like what that was like for you?
Yeah, of course. Well, let me start by saying that I was drinking at the age of 14, 15. I was in nightclubs at 16 with fake IDs, and like I partied hard. But again, that's what everyone was doing. It was so normalized. It was like if you weren't drinking and partying, then you like who are you? What are you doing? You're a loser. And also being in a footy environment, you know, going out for a drink after is very normalized. It's socially acceptable. It's what we all do. And I remember the last time that I was drunk, and I remember waking up from that morning and I said to myself, I'm never drinking again. And from that day on, I never drank again. And it also, you know, made sense because I can't preach this, let's break these cycles.
Yeah.
Let's, you know, let's talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships. I can't preach all this stuff if I'm not living that. That's just, I consciously, I feel like I couldn't be that person. And it was hard at the start because, again, in an environment where everyone else is drinking, bit of peer pressure came into that. And I started to get a bit angry. I'm like, why are you so upset that I'm not drinking? Like, I don't get it. And people often say, well, why aren't you drinking? And I want to say, well, why are you drinking? Like, why are you, like, let's change that narrative. It's like, well, why do you drink? But I'm so proud of myself because, again, drinking was so normalized where I come from. It was a way that, you know, everyone got together, partied, you know, let your hair down. But also drugs and alcohol are not associated with a good time for me. When you grow up in that environment, we know that family violence or violence in general is fueled by drugs and alcohol. And so it just morally and to my core, I knew that that was something that I wanted to give up. And honestly, it's the best thing I've ever done. Like, I can't imagine my life with alcohol in it, you know, and people often say, well, alcohol is because it's so socially acceptable. It's socially normal, you know. People often think about, well, drugs, right? Drugs is so normalized as well. And hearing about it now and how often it's happening and who takes it and when it, you know, whatever. I'm a part of a group that doesn't do that stuff, right? And I fear that I have so much fear on us as a society on how we just think it's okay to do that. And like, oh, it's just, I'm not a drug addict. I just do it on the weekend. And for me, I just can't comprehend that, you know, and that's my own view. That's my personal experiences with that. It's not associated with a good time for me.
I imagine that for someone like you who has had so much adversity in their life and almost like what you were saying before, that forces you to grow up young, but I imagine it also kind of forces you to become quite a conscious human, especially as it relates to breaking cycles. And that's so relatable what you're saying about like kind of preaching around breaking cycles, but then drinking alcohol, for example. And my story, I'm not 100% sober. I'll still have a drink every now and again, but I've had periods of sobriety in my life, like long, like couple of year periods. And that's so relatable because when I found yoga and I was starting to teach yoga, I was like, how can I be standing in front of a room of people preaching about consciousness and presence and awareness, but then go out on the weekend and get fucked up? Like, it just stopped making sense, actually. But then again, to your point, the hardest part about not drinking is everyone else's problem with you not drinking.
Yeah.
And it is exhausting. And I will say, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I feel like very slowly, and particularly with the generation below us, that very slowly the kind of narrative is starting to change around alcohol and drinking and
and people like you are having playing such a massive part in that. 100%. We actually we did an episode a few back now, and the topic was sober curious, and I actually mentioned you in that episode because I was like, that's where I feel like things like social media, just to kind of back announce it.
That's right.
That's why things like social media are really powerful. There's a lot of negative to it as well, but that's like where it comes good is that, you know, the younger generation, the people that you go out into these schools and you do all these amazing talks and you influence, so you have so much influence, especially on the next generation, and they look at somebody like you now and you are such an advocate for that, you know, for sobriety and your and the reason why. And it can't be understated that the reason that there is this big shift in this sober curious space is because there are storytellers like you out there breaking down the norm, the societal norms.
Yeah. I mean, like, again, being around it growing up, always, like, you know, as a child, like, you know that if the music's up loud and you can smell the alcohol and it's going to the early morning. Like you know that there's probably something that's gonna come after that. And I don't know, I'm easily triggered because again, you know, like I'm taken back to moments of my childhood where I felt so unsafe, so uneasy, and the fear of then, all right, violence is going to happen after that. And most of the time, like it did. And look, I don't judge anyone. Like if that's what they like to do, to drink and party, like, you know, that's their choice. But for me, I only am in control of me, and that's just how I wanted to live my life. Like, don't get me wrong, I still like to go out sometimes with my friends, and like I can drive there. I get a mocktail, I have a dance, and I just drive home.
Speaking my language.
You know, like nothing is wrong with that. And my friends now, I must admit, like are so great and they're very supportive. It's not even a conversation that we have anymore. You know, it's often like, are you driving?
Yeah. Can I believe
that? I'll drive.
That's very familiar.
But it's also so like rewarding in the sense where it's like I don't have to wait for an Uber. I don't have to deal with like, you know, the sloppiness
the
that
demons.
I know. That's right.
The next
you know,
day.
It was funny. I was just in Darwin on the weekend and got in the elevator, and this guy walked in and he was like, "Oh, my head is pounding." Said out loud to all of us, and like I was standing there with Lana, and I was like, I don't miss that. There's not one part of me that misses that. You know. I'm just proud that I have gone so long, and honestly, it's just my normal now.
It's just my
normal.
Yeah.
But
I love it.
Yeah, and you know, like some places make a lovely virgin margarita with the salt around the. I love that shit. So, but then I get in my car and I drive home. You know, when I wake up fresh, and I just love that I can do that.
Yeah.
If sobriety though was easy, everyone would do it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know that mine doesn't come from. I didn't have an issue with alcohol. You know, I'm very sensitive about that because I know a lot of people in my family do, but it was just a decision that I made like that. And I just, again, made that promise to myself, and I've kept that promise. But I know that it's just not as easy for everyone else. So I want to honor that as well.
Amazing. And, you know, I think, like you said, when something like that just becomes your norm and now it's just your life, and it's, again, going back to just being such an admirable decision. Your strength is an absolute flow on from your beautiful mum. And again, to say it, but she would just be so fucking unbelievably proud of you. But I want to get to your work and your busyness and all the things that keep you rushing, and, you know, all of the experiences that you've been through that have shaped you into who you are today is now what you do for work. And I'm so proud of what you've recently just done with Waangkiny, your business. You're a founder. You're amazing. Ew. But talk us a little bit through the journey. Like, you've moved to Melbourne, you found footy, you found your community here, you've gained this resilience and strength that just is turned into this absolute beast, and now you're channeling that into your work. Tell us that.
Well, it's been a journey, that is for sure. When I first got to Melbourne, thought I was pretty well connected and thought I'll be right to get a job. I was so wrong. You know, I was going to interviews, I was meeting all these different people, and I was like, it sounds promising, but nothing was coming my way. And so rewind a little bit. I actually, in 2016, the same year that my mum had passed away, I was working for the Wirrapunda Foundation, which is now the Wildlich Foundation in WA. And there was this conference in Adelaide, and they said, you know, I understand it can be very sensitive, but we would love to send you. And I remember sitting in there, and there was this woman speaking, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so drawn to this woman. Like, she is a Black woman. She's staunch. She's talking about family violence. She's talking about this issue from a systemic point of view and how it affects us as Aboriginal women. And I just felt so drawn to her, given what's just happened in my life. Anyway, I was like, I need to meet her. So I bailed her up in the rooms after, and we got a photo and we got talking, and learnt that her name was Antoinette. And anyway, so a couple of years later, I made the move to Melbourne. Can't find a job, and this advertisement for a job at Jira came through my football club, and Ash Brown, who was the operations manager at the time, was like, hey, Ugs, I've got this advertisement for these jobs. Don't know if it's your thing, but here you go. Anyway, I'm like, I'm desperate at this point, so I'm just going to go. Teed up an interview, went there, And this lady that I saw at the conference 2 years ago walks past.
Antoinette.
Oh my
is the
goodness.
CEO of Jira.
Okay, goosebumps again.
Right? Right? And I, like, my jaw dropped because I was like, oh my God, this woman, I was so drawn to her. I love her. I don't know her, but I love her. I want to be her. And I'm interviewing for a position in her organization. And when I say the stars aligned. I got the job, and I was helping facilitate the Young Love program. So that was in 2018, right? Mum had only passed away 2 years prior. So I was so proud and so passionate, and I love this space. But what I'd found as the months went by is that I was breaking down at reading certain things or having conversations and seeing these really vulnerable women coming through. And it was as simple as I was not ready to do that work. Like, I was not ready to be in that space and give the best version of myself, because I haven't even grieved really my mum. And I had no idea about what it meant to be an Aboriginal woman in this country. You know, I had no idea about how domestic violence, is a crisis and an emergency. And then when it comes to Aboriginal women, how marginalised we are in this space, because, talking about statistics and all this, I'm like, oh my God, my mum was one of those stats. Like, you hear me talk about stats. We're more than stats, but these are just numbers to put things into perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I remember I was at a training day and we were reading this case study, and my legs started shaking, and I was reading it and I was thinking, this sounds like my mum's story. It was obviously all anonymous. And then it got to the part where it was like, Aboriginal lady died by strangulation. And that's how my mum lost her life. And I don't know if it really was her case or not, but in that moment I'd broken down and I had left, and I just knew to my core that I needed to do some work. And so my time in 2018 with Jira was very short, but knew that this was some place that I wanted to come back to. Like, when I first got to Melbourne, there was only one black fella in my footy team, that was Danielle Ponta, and I stood right by her and was like, sis, where are the rest of us? But when you're a black fella and when you are used to community and seeing mob everywhere, Jira was that space for me. It was like this family that just opened their arms up to me, and I became their little daughter. But when I figured out that I wasn't ready to be in that space and to do the work to the best of my ability, I got a job opportunity to work at Essendon, your club, in their First Nations Women's Pathway program. So it was like a dream come true for me. It was like, oh my God, I'm playing for the Bombers. I'm working. I get to be a part of the growth of women's football and create programs for young black kids coming through, like exactly what I did. And football was the carrot, right? But it was more than that.
Yeah.
And so that job for me was like the epitome of dream jobs. I loved it. Really proud of what I've done at Essendon and really proud of my time there. But all the good things come to an end. And after that finished up, I was thinking, what am I going to do? A couple of years have passed. So I've grown up. I didn't get any taller, but I got a bit more mature. But had done a few little jobs here and there, but found my way back to Jira. And it was a conversation I had with Tani at a community event, and she said, sis, we'll have you back if you want to come back. And it was a 3-day job, right? 3 days just part-time. And I said, well, this is perfect, because I'd been doing a lot of speaking engagements on the side. And I was saying to myself, I would love to work part-time so then I could dive into my stuff full-time, put some energy into, at this point, it wasn't even Waangkiny. It was just me sharing my story with the world.
And with that, where did that start? There's the story share, like the first of the keynotes, and where did that begin as well?
So, the year that my mum moved to Perth to be with us kids, it was this great news story, right? And my friend Craig Quartermain was in with the ABC and was like, we would love to capture this story. And because I'm not camera shy, I was like, yeah, of course. I'll just see if my siblings and mum want to do that. And they were all down to do this, just to capture this, mum coming to watch us play footy and just family coming back together, and mum really wanting to get her life back on track. And she took the steps to do that. And we were so proud of her. So it was something that we wanted to capture. And then obviously the incident happened, and in that same year, a couple months later, my friend Craig reached out again and said, look, I don't want to be insensitive, but is this something you would like to do now? And after speaking with my family, we did a little short doco on it, and that was in the same year of 2016. And I look back at that interview and it's so funny, like just the way that I speak and like I just am a little girl. Like I'm a young girl and I want to hug her so bad. But I started sharing my story from that day and I haven't stopped. And I didn't know that you could get paid to share your story. Like I had no idea that existed, you know. So I was doing so much for free. I'm like, what do you mean you want to hear me talk? Like, yeah, okay, I'll come do that. But it wasn't until I came to Melbourne that I learnt that people will pay you to share your story. And so I was doing it as a bit of a side thing. But when I got offered the job back at Jira, because I was reaching, you know, some pretty big organizations, some corporates, some schools, and I was like, wow, like people want to hear me talk. And so when I got the opportunity to go back to work at Jira, and now I'm not just helping facilitate the Young Love program, I'm the lead of the Young Love program. So that was a really great honor to be able to be given that responsibility. And I love that program. It's a really great program. But then the 2 days a week allowed me to really invest into what is now Waangkiny. And I like to say that Waangkiny is not even a year old because I only registered as a business in February this year, and I've done so much, which is so cool.
That's crazy.
But how did I get here? I don't know. I suppose I kept sharing my story, and I was reaching more people. More people wanted to hear me speak, and it got to the point where I was kind of having to take leave without pay with Jira because I was like, this is too good to turn down. Like I need to do this, right? And it just got to a point where I was like, I think I have to do Waangkiny full time because I'm not prepared to give up anything else at this stage. I don't want to give up footy. I don't want to give up Waangkiny. And the only thing that I was willing to kind of let go for now was my role at Jira. And I remember driving to Bendigo. It was a sunny day to go and deliver a Young Love program out there. And I just thought to myself, I think today's the day. I don't know what it was that came over me, but I was like, I think today's the day that I'm going to resign from my job at Jira so that I can do Waangkiny full time. And went to Bendigo, delivered this session, come back, got to the office about at 4:30 and called my bosses in and just said, I have to do this. Yep. And I walked out of there with the biggest smile on my face.
Wow.
And the next day I was at the beach as a celebratory day. And I get this email for an opportunity for one of the highest paid like opportunities that I've ever received.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
And so for some that it may not even be a lot, but for me it was like I literally cried and was like,
I didn't know
my
that
God.
part.
I know. And I just was like, oh my God, if I do this right, I think I could be okay. And credit to Jira, they said, you know, when we employed you, we knew it wasn't going to kind of be long-lived. So they welcomed me with open arms and let me go with so much love and support. And I'll still do some work, you know, here and there, but I couldn't not do this. You know, I couldn't not. And today's the second day of being my own boss, which is so random because you wake up and you're like, should I go to Pilates today? Should I work from home? Like, what should I do today? But I just knew that this was my calling, and I'd been saying this for so long. And what I feel like I've learned about myself is that I'm a doer. If I say I'm going to do something, I feel like I do it. And
You don't muck around.
And honestly, the opportunities that have come since resigning, like I can't even explain. Like it is insane.
And it was like what we said. So I remember we went for a run and you were like having that conversation. You're like, I think I'm going to do it. And I was like, sis, just do it. Because the minute that like you affirm this and you know, the universe, and we always talk about the universe all the time, but it's like that door will close, and that email that you got is a direct correlation to you, you know, honoring what you felt so deeply and viscerally inside of you to make that call. And it is just going to keep going and going and going and going.
I always say that, well, I don't know if I think this is the first time I've ever said this actually, so I take that back. But like the universe respects decision making.
Yeah.
It's like when you draw that line in the sand and you make that call, it is like there's always a reaction.
Yeah.
Usually
I love
in
that
the positive
we
way.
talk about the universe because we are all Cancerians, so very spiritual people. But I had been seeing like 11:11 like everywhere, to the point where it was sickening, like how often I was seeing it. And I don't know, I felt like you know when you feel it to your core, like you know. And when I had resigned, I can't even explain the feeling, because I was like, oh my God, again, I've just done something that I said I wanted to do. Like I actually did it. And the doors that have opened up and the places that I'm going to be going to, I just think like like places I've never even heard of or ever been before. And so with Waangkiny in my language means talking or speaking. And my mission is to reach as many communities and individuals to ignite that fire in their bellies to turn adversity into influence through the power of storytelling. And that's as simple as it is. It's let's just have conversations about the real life things that we face and experience in our homes, in our communities that are often no light is shed on that because a lot of shame comes with that, embarrassment or what are people going to think of me, or this is just normal. So why would I be talking about that? So it's as simple as just kickstarting these conversations, because the more we know about each other, the more as human beings we have the ability to be kind and wanting to help. And I feel like there is so much power in another human showing love, compassion, empathy, because people have said to me, who helped you? Who helped you get to where you are? It wasn't any services. It wasn't just one person. It was multiple people over my journey. People fed me. People gave me hand-me-down clothes, hand-me-down footy boots, gave me lifts to places, furnished my room one time. Like a random person I met on the plane, I'm still in contact with her today. There's a video of me walking home when I was living in a storage unit, walking home into this room, and she had given me like a chest of drawers, a mirror, had like new doona covers, and I met this lady on a plane, right?
Wow.
But that's you. It's your energy. It is you.
But I am like that because so many people have been like that to me.
Yeah.
And so Waangkiny's mission is really just to reach as many people as we can, to just ignite the fire in our bellies and dare you to dream. Because if you told little Courtney back in the day that she'd be living this life now, everyone says, oh, she'd laugh at you, she wouldn't believe you. But when I tell you, when you grow up in an environment like I did, when you don't have any power on, no lights on, you don't have any food at home, you don't know where your mother is, how can you dream this big? How can you, like these, it wasn't even in my reality, like my reality was just, if we got dinner that night or, if we got fed, like that was good. That was good for us. So I'm here to help you dream big, because if we aren't dreaming big, we're just standing still. And I hope that people can look at me and think like, if she did it, like I can, because I'm no better than anyone. I don't think I'm better than anyone. I'm just someone who, is a bit of a doer, and I dream big and I do what I need to make those dreams a reality.
Well, you're the kind of person who's willing to be on the front foot.
Yeah.
As opposed to like living life on the back foot, passively waiting for opportunities to come or to be saved or whatever it might be. You're brave enough to live life on the front foot, which is like, that's courageous.
And it's scary. It's scary because, rejection as well. That's a big thing. But I feel like I have so much life experience, and I've been able to move forward with my life with, the traumas that I've had with the loss of my parents. I feel like I can take on the world. Like, and I wish I didn't have this story to tell, but unfortunately it is my reality. But how it has shaped me into who I am today, I think, says all. And I do feel like I can handle so much. And not to say, I don't want to promote toxic positivity or anything like that, because as Cancerians, we feel a lot as well. So I'm a deep thinker. But I also feel like there's not anything that I can't get through. And, I feel like my mental strength and resilience, which I didn't know was a thing back in the day as well, but that is what I'm most proud of, because we can have all the things, we can have all the materialistic things, but that doesn't mean shit if you don't know who you are in your heart and in your soul. And I'm really proud that I have that, because I know not everyone does.
Can I ask you a question about you're with Waangkiny now? And firstly, actually, I want to say something and just a bit of a shout out, and little Courtney. And I'm just like your biggest fangirl here in the corner, just like, I love you. But watching you walk the fucking runway of the L'Oreal Paris thing, and I was just like, the little Courtney, that little girl, and we talk about her, and you want to just give her the biggest hug. That little girl watching you walk down that L'Oreal Paris runway would have wow, what an amazing, incredible, and just one example of some of the incredible things that you're doing right now. But that's what I wanted to lead into with Waangkiny and what is coming up for you. And now that you have made this big leap and you're doing so much work, like we said at the beginning of this episode, we're so lucky to even have you for this period of time because you're so busy. How do you manage it all? Like what is your day to day? How do you manage your calendar? How do you keep on top of everything? I know you and I have spoken a couple of times about you looking to hire somebody as a bit of an assistant. What is the trajectory of Waangkiny? What have you got coming up and how do you handle it all?
And also what we were talking about off mic as well around 11 talks in 6 days.
Oh my God, yeah.
the resilience required for that.
Yeah.
Lump that in.
Well, that was huge. So I had this, again, dream to come back home to my country, my community of Bunbury and do work there because, you know, I'm reaching so many people here in Victoria. I was like, well, I just feel a calling to want to go home to my people. And there was this conversation around Waangkiny going on tour. Yeah, I've just kind of made these things up, but it literally turned into Waangkiny going on tour. Like all these schools jumped on board. The Southwest Aboriginal Women's Collective, which is a newly formed collective dedicated to this space, which I'm their first ambassador of. But what's funny about that is that the drivers of that collective were the adults in the Girls Academy in high school that mentored me. So I'm working with them as an adult now. And those were the very women who fed me, had showed me tough love. Like this full circle stuff is insane. So they really brought that to life. But I quickly learned of what I'm capable of. And yeah, 11 talks in a week. I do not recommend that whatsoever.
Why?
By the end of it. So it was like all these school visits, right? But I didn't realize that this school had me booked in for like 3 sessions. So I'm going to the school thinking I'm doing one. They're like, all right, yep, so you're now here. And I was like, and of course I'm not going to say no, right? Because I felt the love from everyone and they just wanted a piece of me. And I was so proud to kind of give them that, right? Yeah. But we had our fundraiser on the Thursday night and as the days went on, my voice started to go and I was shitting myself because I'm like, I'm giving a keynote at this fundraiser and I'm like, what if I can't speak? Like I'm stressing, I'm trying not to talk, I'm having ginger lemon tea literally on tap, I'm doing everything. I'm just so nervous and scared because everyone's coming to this fundraiser for me to hear me speak, right? What am I going to do if I can't fucking speak? So I was so nervous. If you go back to the footage, you can hear my voice is definitely almost non-existent. But it was the most incredible week back home in my country town, you know, to be just welcomed back by the little town that raised me. It was so special. However, I cannot do that to myself again. Like that was a big learning of what I don't want to do. That's not how I want to operate. Because what also that means is that I'm not giving everything to, you know, a particular group, you know, like I might lack a bit of energy, a bit of oomph because I can't fucking speak or I'm running solo. I just don't want to do that. So that was really great to know that before stepping into.
Lesson.
Yeah, massive. So my next couple of weeks, though, I'm literally going to be in an airplane more than my own home. So I'm doing so much travel. And I just got off the phone this morning so I can speak to someone, but I'm going to Canberra this weekend to speak at Parliament House, which is really cool.
Wow.
But that stemmed from someone being in the audience at the fundraiser on the Waangkiny tour. So going to go have some conversations at the big house this weekend.
Wow.
Which is really cool.
Wow, sis.
Yeah. So talking about this 11/11 and the universe, you know, working in mysterious ways, like to get in front of some people that can make some decisions and also help me with my mission through Waangkiny, that opportunity is going to arise this weekend. And am I shitting bricks? Absolutely, I am. But again, you have to take these opportunities, you know.
What do you do to prepare for that? How do you mentally prepare for such a big opportunity like that? Because I want to know as well for my own selfishness.
Well, usually I don't really do much preparing when it comes to sharing my story because I know that, right? Yeah. I know that. But also I think now, given that my sole income is what I'm going to be doing with Waangkiny, having a little bit more understanding and prepping to answer big girl questions from ministers and people that I'm going to be talking to about how can they help Waangkiny. So being extra prepared and knowing what I want, my vision, where I want to go with Waangkiny and what I need, the help that I need, really knowing that and understanding that. But in terms of like preparing, I just give myself a little bit of downtime when I can because I know that this next period of my life is very rushed. I'm going to be doing a lot of conversations, meeting a lot of people, but I know that's not going to be forever. It's just for now. But in terms of prepping, sis, like honestly, like Nothing fancy. Like we don't need to complicate it. It's just I do what I do in my day to day. I like to keep fit and go to Air Locker. I love
Shout
that
out.
place.
Cheeky plug.
I love to go for runs. I love to go sit at a cafe and just mind my own business because
Drink coffee on
drink
tap.
coffee. Well,
Although,
I'm
are you a matcha girl now?
I only drink one coffee a day,
Oh.
which is
Yeah.
I'm really proud of too because I was
Yeah.
drinking 5 a day, 6 a day.
Yeah, we got some.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So, honestly, I think the biggest thing that I need to do and prepare is remind myself that I did this. I got here and that I'm worthy and capable to be in places like Parliament House and having these conversations. That's probably the most preparation I need to do is to remind myself that I've done this and get rid of this imposter syndrome because that I come across as a very confident person, right? Walking that the runway with L'Oreal, when I got the email, I remember being like, "Are you sure? Like, is this for me?" Because I'm looking at everyone else that's invited, and I'm like, I feel like I'm this big compared to these people, but trying to shift from that. And us as black fellas, as black women, sometimes we can be, we think that we don't belong in these spaces, right? We're not worthy of being in these spaces, but I do want to change that idea for myself and for the rest of our community, our people.
And I love the way that you do that in little things, like even just on your socials, like, what I shared earlier about the story that you put up, not being afraid to voice, like, I fucking worked hard to be where I am, and like it's like affirmations.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you kind of mentioned that too, because often like I reflect, I don't, people call me an influencer, right? This came up at Jira the other day and we're laughing about it, but the idea of an influencer, right? My idea of that is probably not what I feel like I am, okay? We think of an influencer of someone who will get a product and will try to influence you to buy that product. They may not even use it. They may not even like it. It's just a paid gig. I don't want to be that person. But they're like, but you are an influencer. And I'm like, but why? How? And they're like, well, you're influencing people to really shift their mentality, to look at their life differently, to challenge on. And I'm like, okay, I like that version, but can we call it something else, not an influencer? Like, what can it be? But I understand my role in that.
You're a leader.
A leader, yeah, or a cycle breaker or a change maker. I think that's what I like that title a little bit more. But going to this next phase of my life, obviously social media, I don't want that to be my everyday thing. I like posting what I want to post, but also I don't want to become clinical. I don't want to become, oh, my Instagram has to look aesthetically pleasing forever. I don't want to be that person because that's not who I am. That's not who I want to become. Yes, that gig with L'Oreal was incredible, but I'm most proud of the work that I do on the ground in community. That is my calling, and that's what I want to continue to do. And there may be a time, later on down the track where I do different things, but for right now, being on the ground in community is what I'm most passionate about and what I'm most driven to do. And as Waangkiny grows, I'm going to need some help. Like looking at my calendar now and I'm thinking, how the fuck? Like, but it's just even being reminded, Courtney, you got to do this. I booked your flights. I booked your, but handing that over to someone else is letting somebody else come into my really personal life. And so, yes, it's like, oh, I need some help. But I'm like, this person who's going to come and help me, I have to trust them to my core because you're going to be coming into a space that I've protected for so long.
Yeah.
You're going to learn and know so much about me as a person in my personal life, my professional life. So I do need to let my walls down a little bit because I do need help because a lot of these things that are coming through, I can't remember everything. And I might miss an email. I might miss a phone. Like I just need help with bringing it all together. I've got big dreams for Waangkiny.
The universe is listening.
Yeah.
Please, need help. No, but I've got big dreams for Waangkiny, but I also want to enjoy, this moment. I want to enjoy all these experiences because if I continue to be who I am, which is a doer, I feel like my dreams for Waangkiny will come true one day, but I want to enjoy the now. It's day 2 of being my own boss. So I want to enjoy it. But I will never stop taking on these opportunities. I'm going to be going to regional towns and communities that I've never even heard of before over the next couple of weeks and going back home and doing work back in Bunbury where I come from and having these conversations. Like, I just can't believe this is my life. Like I genuinely, hand on heart, just pinched myself. Even just before I got in here, I had a moment and thought, what is my life? But then to the point, like my life is good because I made it that way.
Yeah.
And I think I'm one of the luckiest people like on this earth.
I feel like you are just about to absolutely launch. Like, I mean, you're already halfway off the runway. I'm so excited to watch where this goes, and the level of authenticity and passion, and like it makes me like I feel really emotional even just in your presence. I'm so excited to see where this takes you. But knowing what is coming up over the next couple of weeks before you get to take a break and have your holiday, we always ask at the end of these podcasts, what is helping you to slow down at the moment?
I don't want to pretend like, like, oh, I do all these great things and like, and to your point about being authentic, I often found myself being like, oh, I didn't go to uni, so like, I'm not using these big articulate words. I feel like I know what I know, but it's on a different level. I always say that I'm street smart, not book smart, right? And someone had said to me, like, there's something so refreshing about that. We hear speakers where they're talking very politically, they're using these big words, and half people don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. And so I need to stop that and still just be okay with being real, authentic, having a laugh. Don't know what I'm doing half the time, but connecting with people just on a level that
is real.
Is real. That's right. And so as I go into this next phase, I don't want that to be taken away. And also not feeling like I can't match people with these big fancy words, because that's something that I was really, insecure about. But to your point about what am I doing to slow down? Honestly, these next couple of days I've got some downtime, and honestly, like just plodding around at home, making sure I've got everything, sorted, and catching up with my friends and really having a lot of that time, because when you're so busy hustling, doing this work, because when you have a business and there's only me, like I say we, like Waangkiny is we, and I'm like, it's only me. And I'm like, oh, I'm CEO and founder, it's only me. But people don't often understand. People can throw around like, you're busy. Yeah, you're busy. We get it. She's busy. But I don't think people actually know or grasp how hard it is when it is solely up to you. Like, yes, opportunities have come my way, but I've also made these opportunities happen. And, it's the late nights pondering over, did I respond to this email? If I don't contact these people now, I'm going to have a missed opportunity. Is my website up to date?
Which, by the way, that website, please everybody go look at Courtney's new website. You just launched it yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah,
well, by the time this comes out,
but all these things that, even this is a little bit personal, but like with your tax and knowing how to do all that shit, like that is scary. And we talk about this all the time. And knowing again, like where I want Waangkiny to go, I'm like, am I setting myself up to fail? Like you're constantly questioning yourself. Am I doing the right thing? I've just left security, like a really well paid job to do this. I'm not going to a contract. I'm going off the pure desire to want to make Waangkiny as big as I know it can be. I left Jira on hope and big dreams. And so a lot of people don't actually understand and know that. And they'll see me drive around in my car or like, post about my house and stuff. But honestly, like, I don't know when my next paycheck's coming in, right? So there's so many things that people just don't know.
Perspective, isn't it?
That's right. And I don't want to, I'm never one to play victim or poor me, but I think I will start to talk about this because people might think I'm dumb for leaving an almost 6-figure paid job for a dream, right? But I believe in my mission so much that I feel like someone else will and that will come. I'm not driven by money, but obviously we need it to pay our bills and to buy my coffee. But I just feel in my core that someone is going to believe in my mission just as much as I am, and that'll be a flow-on effect. But again, to your point, it's to slow down for me right now is honestly to just be still in my home and enjoy a cup of coffee in my home, because these next couple of weeks I'm not going to be there. And I've done so much work to make this space, my home, a safe space for me and a place that I didn't have growing up. That is what I'm going to be doing over these next couple of days while I can, is just enjoy being in my home that I've created.
Yeah. Well, we are so grateful that you took the time to come and share a little slice of your story with us. And, we were speaking about this maybe in another episode. I don't know if it's come out yet, but no risk, no reward.
Yeah.
Right. The universe, respects the brave. And as I said before, we're so excited to just watch this launch and to see all of the incredible impact that you're going to have on so many people. I mean, you're already doing it, but it's just going to keep getting bigger and better. So we love you, and
I love you guys. And honestly, and I've said this to you, Megs, every single time, like the moment I met you, like you said, we connected straight away, but you have been someone that I have idolized and wanted to match your energy and the way that you rope people in just with how much love you share as well. Like a lot of that has been so, just I've admired that so much about you, and I've you go back to our messages, like I'm like, I just want to be you, because I think we definitely bounce off each other, and you have been a massive, massive fan and a hype girl and one of my biggest supporters, and I thank you so much. And what you guys are doing here, like I'm so proud of you both. And this podcast is great, right? Because Waangkiny is all about talking, and you guys literally sit here and talk with many different people and talk about topics that often aren't spoken about. And I really admire that, and I feel really grateful to be here to have these conversations with you guys. But I get nervous thinking about how my life is going to change, because I know to my core that it's going to be a pretty good ride.
It's going to be the best ride ever. And like what you said, it was Waangkiny's built on hopes and dreams. That leaving Jura, it's been on hopes and dreams have got you so far already. Everything you've decided and every decision you've made has been off the back of just trusting. And I think that there's an element of like that spiritual connection that we have as, I don't know whether it's as Cancerians or as Black women, or I don't know, but there's just like, you have this really beautiful, deep inner knowing and trust. And sometimes it's just trusting that if I make this call, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. Everything will always work out. You might have hit some road bumps along the way, but you've just got that depth of knowing, and I just cannot wait to watch you shoot to the moon and beyond, because that's where you're going. It's unstoppable. And I love you like deeply. You're somebody, we're cut from the same cloth. We're like, for whatever reason, when we met, that connection was so instant, and I feel like we've had past lives together, and I'm just forever going to be backing you in, keep being you, never change for anyone. That authentic you is just like the biggest ray of sunshine that this universe and this world is so blessed to have. And I'm so grateful that you got to sit on our couch today, and that more people get to know you, because the more people that get to hear your voice and know your energy and your passion, the more people you get to touch and change and influence.
And that's all what Waangkiny is about. And I think, like, to finish off, when we had tidied Mum's house up after everything happened, there was a handwritten quote that was left behind by Mum, and it says, "Sometimes when things are falling apart, they may actually be falling into place."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is so beautiful.
And so I'm often reminded, and I know, like you said, it's not going to always be, rainbows and sunshines. I understand that, and I'm ready for that. But I think that I am so supported from the spiritual world, with my mum and dad backing me in to do this work. I believe that to my core, and I do believe that I will be okay.
Did your mum wrote that note, didn't she?
Yeah.
It was handwritten by her.
Yeah. My older sister, it's in her possession. I really wish that I could have it, but
that's almost something you want to get like tattooed or something on you.
I have it tattooed on me.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I do, because I loved it so much.
on.
And it's just a constant reminder that I will be okay.
Yeah.
And it just, I do believe everything will fall into place.
Oh yeah.
It always has for me. And I feel like, again, this is just the start of the beginning. And I really can't wait to see where I go with this. Like, I'm so excited myself. I'm nervous. But having some really big conversation with some pretty cool people. And I think that there are people out there that believe in my mission just as much as I do. And I can't wait to see where we go.
Yes. And for everyone listening, make sure that you follow along. Do you want to actually just tell people where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me. So we did just launch our website yesterday. Our website, again, it's just me. But Waangkiny is for everyone. So I'm saying our, as in it's for everyone. It's a place where you can come and have conversations, dream big, and, ignite that fire in your belly and dare you to dream. And so the website is www.waangkiny.com. I'm also on Instagram, which is just Waangkiny, but my social media is just Courtney Ugle. So you'll find me there somewhere, because everyone also... Waangkiny, people have been mispronouncing that. It's so funny, but it's like Waangkiny. It's not spelt like that.
Waangkiny.
Yeah. So like it's not spelt like that, but obviously with the Noongar dialect, we have different ways that we pronounce things. There's a letter there, but you don't say the letter. It's wild. But make sure that you
Waangkiny.
learn what?
Waangkiny.
Yeah. Perfect.
Boom.
There you go.
Thank
And
you.
what
Like,
does and
it's
what,
like
and what does it mean?
talking.
What does it mean?
Oh my God, don't put
No.
me on the spot like this.
No, you know
All
what
of
it
a
means.
sudden just got so sweet.
What are we doing all today?
We're sharing stories.
Yeah. Well, Waangkiny means
talking.
talking, and that's what it's
Talking, yeah.
all about. And I'm so proud of this, and it was born from my own struggles. But my story is not one of sadness and struggles and trauma. It's one of hopes and big dreams, and that's what I want to leave behind.
I love you.
I love you. I feel like you said I love you like
Yeah.
10 times today.
I
But
just
I
love
love you too. I really love you.
I love
So much love. Okay, thanks, Courtney.
Thank you, sister.
The content discussed in this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. If any of the topics we've covered today feel overwhelming, we recommend seeking individual support. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis, please contact Lifeline on 131114 or 13 Yarn on 139276.